Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host of the channel. Thank you to all the returning viewers. I'm glad to have you here. And if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing and hit that bell button for notifications. Today, I decided to do something a little different. We are in the months of June and it's Pride months. And I wanted to invite a few of my friends to talk about the way they celebrate the Pride months and special projects they work on. So without further ado, I want to start with gnboston. So gnboston is my guest today. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Irina. How are you? So glad to be here.
I'm so glad you finally agreed to come to my channel. I've been working on you for almost as long as this channel exists, actually.
Yeah. No,
We've been friends for a while. So tell me, so you have a goal of raising 200,000 before the 2029. How this goal came to be and how has it been going so far?
Sure. I guess I should roll the clock back about 20 years. So I did my first cycling event raising money for HIV/AIDS services back when I was living in New York, and there were a series of these rides across around the country. And so I did a bunch of those rides back in the late 90s from Boston to New York. I rode my bike across Texas, where I grew up twice, and then in '99 I rode my bike across Alaska as one of these big organized events. And that Alaska trip sort of did me in. It was brutal weather, and they had to call the National Guard to like rescue people because of a freak snowstorm. And after that experience, I basically put my bike up and didn't ride it for 20 years. Then we fast forward to 2019. A very good friend of mine had joined the board of San Francisco AIDS Foundation, which is one of the beneficiaries of the AIDS Lifecycle out here in California. And she said, I'm a new board member. I feel like I should do the ride once. And I know you used to do these rides back when you were young. Would you be interested in doing it again? And I said, sure. I just moved out to California and I had a little extra time on my hands. And so I got back on my bike and I'd totally forgotten how much I enjoyed the ride, the training and the riding. And so after that first ride, which was an amazing experience, so the ride runs from San Francisco to Los Angeles over 7 days. It's 545 miles. 2,000 or so riders do it every year, and then another 1,000 crews. So it's just a great community event that kind of moves down the coast over the week. And so after that first ride, I said, I want to do this. I want to raise $200,000. And I gave myself sort of 10 more rides as sort of a goal to hit that, kind of based on how much money I'd raised that first year and what I thought I could achieve. And so I've been doing it. This will be my 4th year. And of course, during the pandemic, things were changed a little bit. And so we had to kind of do the ride on our own locally. So this is the first year in 3 years that we're all getting back together to do it. So that's kind of where it came from. And it's been a fantastic experience. I'm very excited to get back out there with all the people this year.
You changed things around this year because you decided to involve the entire knitting community in your riding.
Yeah.
How did that idea came to be?
As basically when, I'd been knitting since 2004, 2005. But it wasn't really until I moved out to to California. We kind of uprooted our lives. We had no friends really out here. We moved out here to be close to aging parents. And because I had extra time on my hands, I had started knitting more. And so I'd sort of gotten a little more, gotten a little bit more aware of the knitting community online. And, as I entered this 4th year of raising money, it's hard to go back to the same people every single year who have donated money, and you're trying to raise a little bit more each year, a little bit more. And so I don't know how it came to me, but I just had this idea of like, how could I combine two things that I love and try to raise a little extra money? And so I came up with this idea of a knit-along. I'd seen some of the YouTubers who had done, knit-alongs and engaged a lot of people. I thought, well, maybe if I did that and we figured out a fundraising angle where the designers would sort of increase the price of their designs a little bit and then donate that money back to the ride. And I didn't know what was going to work and what kind of methods were going to work, but I had this idea of doing one knit along. And then I kind of put the word out there through Knitter's Gonna Knit and Instagram, and a couple of well-known personalities in the knitting world kind of picked it up and shared it. And then overnight, I was flooded with designers who said like, oh, I would love to help. And one of them, who actually ended up working with Evan Bale O'Keefe from she lives in Ireland, she was like, you're thinking too small. And don't do just one, do a whole series of these things. And that's kind of how it happened. Is I said, well, let's do 4. Let's try 4 and see how it goes. And then, we've added Crochetalongs into it. And then the one that's happening for Pride this month, a lovely woman, designer and dyer, reached out to me and said, how about adding a sock to the mix? And so, I've sort of gotten where I have gotten by not ever saying no to a new idea. And so when she said, let's do a sock, I said, sure, we're already doing 2 shawls. Let's do it, add a sock to the mix. So that's kind of how it's grown over this year.
Were you surprised by the reception of it?
I was really surprised by the number of designers and dyers who sort of raised their hand immediately and said they were willing to help, especially, some big names. So the very first designer that, I did the first event with was Lewis from Brooklyn Boy Knits. And he's
Fiberchats star.
Yeah, Fiberchats star. He Knit Stars. He's gigantic. And when he,
right.
He reached out to me and I was like, oh my gosh, wow, sure. And then it's just kind of gone from there. And it's been, so the reception has been amazing from the dyeing and designing community. And I've made so many new, who I consider friends now from that. And then the reception from the makers who are participating has actually been great. Each subsequent event has gotten like a little bit bigger. It's kind of about where I thought it would be in terms of the amount of money raised, but I've learned a lot about kind of what seems to work, what doesn't seem to work in terms of getting people engaged. But it's been a huge learning process. So it's been a ton of fun.
So talk a little bit about like this Knitalong that you're doing for the Pride months.
Right. So it's going to be the season finale of what I'm calling season 1 of the End AIDS Knitalongs and Crochetalongs, which is what I've been calling these. And so, as I mentioned, so starting on June 1st, or will have started on June 1st, and is going to run through July 31st. So one of the things that I tried to do with each of these is make them most of them 2 months long, just because I wanted them to be kind of chill and relaxed. I didn't want to feel like people felt like they were having to race to try to finish something by a deadline. So it'll run for the 2 months. I'm actually going to take one of the projects with me on the AIDS Lifecycle, which runs the first week of June. I'm going to be knitting on not while I'm riding my bike, but in the evening and try to make some videos. So we have 2 shawls. So we have a knitted shawl, which is called Under the Rainbow, and it's designed by Jennifer Tipton. And then we have a crochet shawl, which is called the Ellie Roo Shawl by Shelby Shays Stitches. It's the tongue twister, that one, but Shelby Shays Stitches. And then we have the sock pattern that I mentioned before, which is Always Be Kind yarn, and the pattern's called Rainbows for Kaylan.
And then how can people find you? Like if they want to join this Knitalong, where do they find you?
So they can follow me at Gary_knits, Gary_rides, all underscores under there. And then on the link in my bio, I have an FAQ for the Knitalong, and so it'll have links to all the patterns. Plus, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm always posting pictures of the patterns that we're working on. But all the patterns are available on Ravelry. And then there are kits available from 3 different dyers for all of the patterns.
So I'm definitely going to post like all those links. You can send them and I'll post them under the video so people can join this Knitalong and get those kits and stuff.
Yeah, and then portions of the proceeds from all the pattern sales and all the kit sales are donated to AIDS Lifecycle, which benefits the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center in their HIV and AIDS services that they provide to their clients.
Why is this cause so important for you?
I came out late in life. I was already, it was a much different time, but I was in my 20s, and I came out sort of, the AIDS crisis has continued, but after the first big wave of the community getting decimated by this disease. I feel that there were so many people who came before me and came out before me that did all of the hard work to raise awareness about this, to push the government to develop the drugs to help make this a treatable disease. And I feel like I kind of missed those efforts when I was younger, and so I just feel an obligation to the community to sort of in memory of the people who came before me, to sort of continue that work, and to continue to. I really do feel like in my lifetime we can see this disease eradicated. There's one of the pushes of San Francisco AIDS Foundation right now is to have 0 new transmissions in San Francisco, and they're getting very close to that goal. And so I think it is achievable. And so I think that, continuing to work on that, because it's one of those things that it has a little bit fallen out of the public eye just because it has been viewed as this sort of chronic treatable disease. But I do think that we can ultimately end AIDS, as I say for the Knitalong. So.
Well, you mentioned that you grew up in Texas and then
Yep.
you lived in New York and then you now in California. Like, do you feel like it's becoming easier for people to come out, like if they, or do you feel like it depends on where you are?
I mean, I think it still depends on where you are. I think that it definitely is easier. I think no matter where you are, I think that just representation and visibility helps kids sort of see themselves in the world as who they are. And so that helps. But obviously, there's a lot going on right now in specific places that are trying to make it harder and harder for that to happen. So I think that we're, it's just this constant up and down and battle. And so I think that with marriage equality, with just trans visibility, with all of that has helped. But there are obviously forces out there that are trying to force things back the other direction. And so we just have to keep working to keep raising visibility, keep raising, representing ourselves out in the world as, members of society, as who we are. So I think it's still a challenge for kids, especially.
Who is your audience, like for all those Knitalongs, and like who is the majority of your supporters?
It is a wide range. So as a male knitter, I was expecting that I would get, a lot of guys who were, joining me. And there are. What's really surprised me is how global it is. So with each of the Knitalongs, we have giveaways. We have about 5 rounds of giveaways through each one. And I would say probably about half of the winners of the giveaways have been out of the country. So we have I've sent prizes to Ireland, to the UK, to Austria. I have a guy in Hungary who's a dyer who's been super supportive of me. So the sort of global nature of it has been sort of interesting to me. But it's in terms of demographics, it is a wide range. I would say it's probably maybe skewed a little bit more to men than the broad knitting community, but there's a lot of women who are participating as well. So it's really fun. It's been really fun to see the support from the kind of breadth of the knitting community.
Do you think you're going to continue next year?
Yes. So I'm already planning season 2. So any designers or dyers out there who might be interested, please hit me up. I've got a couple of things lined up already. I think I'm going to maybe not do 4. So that kind of stretched me a little thin, and really it's really just from a personal perspective. I was only knitting on things that were involved in the Knitalong, and I have a ton of other things that I want to knit on. So I think I may take it down to 3, but I've really enjoyed having a crochet project in there as well. So we'll probably keep that up. And then an idea that I'm working on, and I've started to think about it, is because I've seen some other people do fundraising this way, and I think it's a fun idea because people are always talking about destashing, and is to sort of create a periodic Instagram-based sort of yarn garage sale for people, and so sort of destashing for a cause. And so I think I'm going to try to work that into next year's sort of season 2. But yeah, there'll definitely be a season 2, and hopefully we'll continue for several more seasons, as long as people are interested in doing it. it's fun for me, and so I'll continue to try to keep it growing.
Right. Well, hit me up with this destashing when time comes. I might have some stuff to give.
I know. As I think you've discussed on your on the podcast, yarn collecting is a totally different hobby than knitting.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Gary. Thank you for coming to my channel today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
So my next guest is John, the Quilting Doctor, who you already know because he is the Fiberchats star. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good to see you again. So you just came up with the idea for a Pride Craft Fest that you're doing in collaboration with the Rainbow Llama.
Yeah, that's correct. The Rainbow Llama and I were chatting on social media. You know, we often see these kind of social media festivals or months where there's prompts and people are able to kind of expose their work or a part of their community through these prompts. And we thought there had to be one for Pride for crafters, and we looked into it and there wasn't one. So we decided to make one.
It's about time. So how did you come up with like the prompts for it? Like, was it difficult or?
It did take a lot of brainstorming, creativity. You know, we looked at common prompts that happen through other kind of social media programs where they do the monthly or daily prompts throughout the month like that. And then we also just thought about what's important to the LGBT community. And you know, what can we bring into it, because we want the focus to remain on the community, the LGBT community. So we just thought about what else can we pull into this type of social media event or festival, and it just kind of came together with us brainstorming and throwing together ideas.
So today was the first day, and basically it's like by the time this interview is going to be posted, it's going to be the first week. Like, were you surprised by the reception of that idea? Like, were people super excited?
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised with kind of how excited people got really quickly. The Rainbow Llama and I kind of put this together relatively last minute. And so we didn't even start advertising until a couple of days before Pride. And within this first day, there's already tons of posts on Instagram and on TikTok, and the community has kind of grabbed onto it, which is just super exciting to see.
And what are you hoping to achieve this? Like, what's your dream and hope for this craft? Yes.
I think the biggest thing is just visibility for creators in the LGBTQ plus community, and just kind of giving them a platform to be able to, whether it's a small business or just a creator that happens to be on social media that likes to show their work, but just to be able to give them a larger platform to kind of expose their work or expose their small business in an environment that is, you know, put together by the community. So it's really cool to see all the members of the community and allies kind of jumping in and showing their stuff. And it gives the opportunity for a lot of smaller accounts that otherwise wouldn't get the attention to be seen on a platform where people are, you know, searching through this hashtag now. And so smaller accounts that otherwise wouldn't get the attention are able to get that visibility. So the real goal here is just visibility for the community. And then we've had some amazing crafters in the community donate some prizes. So there's going to be things like prizes that'll be given out as well. So it's kind of just naturally evolving into this really fun event.
Right. And so there's a bunch of different prompts. Do you have a favorite?
I think the favorite ones of mine are the ones that revolve around the community itself. So things like talking about your gender identity, or ones that the prompts are just kind of like show, you know, your materials that show pride. So the ones that really focus on the LGBT community and allow people to kind of show their work and how it's representing the community. I think those are my favorite.
And if people come a little bit later, just because this episode is going to be airing on the 7th, right? Can they still participate for the rest of the months?
100%. You can join in for just a single post on any day of the month, or you can join in for the whole thing. There's no need to register. There's no email sign up. It's really just posting with the prompts that are given when you have time and when you're able, or when you have an idea, and using the hashtag so the whole community is able to see it. But people can post as much or as little. There's no requirements, and anybody who posts even a single post is eligible for the giveaways. So we want it to be really as inclusive and as open as possible. So there's really no limitations to how much or little participation, and there's no limitation on what your craft or art is. You know, we have people from makeup artists to crocheters to quilters to paper artists, and kind of everybody is coming together and showing their work. And allies, a bunch of allies as well, which is really cool to see. So there's really no limits on who can participate or how much they participate. It's really just meant to be an inclusive way to give people a platform.
So what hashtag should people use to find you now for this?
So they can search using the hashtag Pride Craft Fest. And they can find us on a website as well. It's Quilting Doctor /Craft Pride Fest.
So we're gonna put the link to it in the description of this video so more people can find you easily and hopefully participate in it. Sounds like a great event.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, guys, you all know Josh. Josh is my very first guest of Fiberchats from Blu Fiber Company. Hey, guess what I got in the mail yesterday?
Oh, you got one of the first ones. Oh, I love it. I'm so glad you got that in time.
Yeah.
What are your first thoughts?
I love that. Like, I'm actually really curious to see how it's gonna knit up, because you know how like sometimes you have like you buy yarn and it's in the skein and you sort of have an idea of what it's gonna look knitted up. I have zero idea. I'm like actually really curious to see how it's gonna knit up. Like I'm thinking of making a hat with this one for my son and see how it's gonna like all come together. So I'll keep you posted on that. But tell me about this collection.
Yeah, so I am so excited because I wanted to really give back to the community this year, and I ended up doing that pride color. So you got one of these. This is the merino linen base.
Yeah.
And it is super cool because it's a single pooling color across 30 stitches. And each of these guys, which we'll look at, so I hand paint the color across the whole thing. And of course it's in my UV reactive style, which I love. But this is such a pretty skein yarn. But these are awesome. They're on pre-order. I did make a pretty big batch for just to go, but I wanted to be able to give back to Portland. So I'm doing a couple of things this year during Pride. This color, when purchased, 20% of it is going to go to LGBTQIA and every other letter of the alphabet. So giving 20% back. What's really awesome is so far we've raised $1,000 just from this one color. So I'm so excited. I'm so happy for everyone. The month has barely started. And every day people are giving back to the Portland community. It's so important to me to shop local, to give back local. And this is just one of the ways I can this year. So I'm super happy with it. This took a lot of time to make.
Yeah, and it looks complicated to make something like that.
Yeah, I hope you love yours.
No, I'm sure, because, well, honestly, I've been your customer for quite a while now, and you even painted special color for me. But like, there was never a single color of yours that I didn't love. And I'm like a yarn snob when it comes to colors. So
oh, I know. I'm super excited for this collection. What's cool about this, I don't know, did you try my linen base yet? I don't know if I've sent you.
Oh, no.
So this guy's 20% linen and all of the little tufts. So it looks really marled. And so you can see all the little tufts inside of it. It does tend to grow. So it's only a little over 350 yards, but it grows quite a bit. So you can knit it up pretty small and get a big project out of it.
So how long does it take you to, like, from the pre-order to actually sending it?
So I'm pretty quick with my pre-orders. I know some dyers like to do 6 to 8 weeks. I will knock out a ton of pre-orders in one day because I have a huge studio space. So my first round of pre-orders, which were ordered all last week, I actually got all of them out already. So I dyed up, I think, like 150 skeins over the weekend, got those out. And then I'll just do the rest. So I try to get stuff out in 4 weeks. That's like my try. But if I hit 6 weeks, I will. I know we all get really excited when we buy yarn and we want it now. I know I do that. I pre-ordered some really awesome stuff from Viking Fiber Co. and I'm currently waiting for it. So yeah, I try to be quick.
Well, how can the knitting community in general support the LGBTQ community and make it all inclusive? Family feel
as a male knitter, it's very interesting because used to be afraid to knit in public. It was a very gender normative thing for women.
Right.
And I just remember learning how to knit from this fabulous woman. And I think recognizing that art or crafts, no matter what the craft is not necessarily like a sex or gender related specific thing. And I would encourage everyone to try to knit. I think it's very relaxing. And that's why I specifically wanted to give back to a youth program out of knitting, because I want kids to be inspired to do art, whatever it is, whether it's pottery or knitting or whatever.
I love it.
I know, I'm picturing a scarf right now on me. But that's really my biggest thing. I think knitting and the fiber arts community, again, it is very gender inclusive because there's a lot of us out there who are queer or whatever we want to title ourselves. And I want kids to be inspired to be the next Stephen West, so
God
bless. the next me. I've had a few people in Portland reach out to me asking to learn how to dye. So I've had a few people over to dye yarn, and maybe I'll do a class at some point.
Well, if I'm ever in Portland, I'm popping into your studio for sure.
Oh, absolutely. We can dye some yarn. You know what's funny? I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher for a long time. I could have just seen myself being a kindergarten teacher. You just paint with pudding, you paint with food coloring. I would have been so good at that.
Hey, it's never too late. You might still have this career ahead of you.
Hey, yeah. You know what?
If somebody asked you 6 years ago if you're going to be dyeing yarn, you would be laughing at that point. So
oh my gosh,
here we go.
I thought I would have been in tech support forever. Yeah,
well,
here we are.
Thank you so much, Josh, for popping into my show again. I loved having you here.
I love seeing you. It's always fun.
Kyra Romaguera. So Cairo has been a Fiberchat star, and you can look at his interview if you haven't seen it yet. But hi, Kyra. Welcome.
Hey, how are
Welcome
you?
back. Love having you here. I want to talk about the project that you recently finished. It's called Through the Darkness. Can you tell me about that design of yours?
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually reached out by one of my friends who is curating that gallery installment. So that's up in Manchester, Connecticut, and I live in New York City, of course. So when I saw that they were taking some submissions for a exhibit specifically for Pride, I thought it would be really cool to, put my 2 cents in and contribute. So I have always been really inspired by crochet mandalas, and I love the shape, literally this circle. And I know a lot of people do a lot of different post stitches and detailed textural stitches as well with the mandalas. I just kind of focus on doing a round granny square kind of shape. So this project for me was supposed to relate to Pride somehow, because this exhibit is going to be featured at the gallery for the month of June. So what I did with this was the 2 primary yarns that I used. One was black and one was a rainbow self-striping yarn. What this project meant to me was very kind of personally special, if you would, because when I first came out at 17 years old, officially to my friends and especially my family was the big thing. It wasn't always as easy as it is now to have certain conversations at home. And I really did honestly go through a lot of internalized homophobia at first. So if anyone doesn't know what that means, it was really like me beating myself up about being gay. So knowing that I was gay and not being comfortable with that, I remember, you know, I come from my mom's family and my dad's family are both a strong Catholic background. And I had this like Catholic guilt that I had been raised with, that being gay wasn't going to be okay. And my mother never said it straight out to me, but I got that impression from how I would see other people react to gay people.
Right.
So I really was so, you know, distraught, like since I was a kid, knowing that I was different. And I would say, if God exists, why are you doing this to me? You know, I would go to bed crying and just didn't feel good that I was going to have a harder time in life. So to get over that, I had to first get comfortable with myself. And how could I expect people around me, my closest family and friends, to be comfortable with my gayness if I wasn't even comfortable with it, right? So to tie this back into the project, or to crochet it back in, the way that I decided to represent this is the rainbow yarn represents the light shining through the darkness of the black yarn, which is my insecurity and my, at that time, internalized homophobia, like I mentioned. So kind of like the light shining through the darkness, except my light was a rainbow because it's gay. So yeah, so that was really the special meaning behind the project. I had a lot of fun creating it. I had this idea to either mount it onto a big embroidery hoop or even onto a hula hoop. So, but the skeins that I was working with were not agreeing that they wanted to be on a hula hoop. There was not enough yarn for that. So I still managed to get like a really good, nice size piece, really cool looking piece, and added some fringe to the bottom as well, which I just conveniently coordinated in a rainbow. So I really was really proud of how it came out at the end of everything. And just last week, I believe the piece has been up there for about 3 or 4 weeks now at the gallery in Manchester, Connecticut. It was through Workspace Manchester. So I just got contacted last week that somebody actually bought the piece. So it is hopefully gone to a nice home, and I'm really proud of that.
No, and I think it's like, it's very inspiring, not only the fact that you put your experience into your art, but also that you talk about it openly, like on all your social media. And I feel like it gives this permission to other people to examine themselves and how they see themselves, and, you know, or people around them.
Right. You know, I think a big part of this is that, like you said, sharing your story. You always think that you're the only one who goes through something a certain way, I suppose, right? And really, I don't know if my story is inspiring someone else to get that strength or that courage to share their own experience, or maybe even express it in an art form like a fiber craft, right? So I thought that was really awesome that I kind of came up with that idea of how I could visually represent this story and how it affected me in something that you could touch, something tangible. So I thought that was really awesome. And yeah, like you said, it could be inspiring to other people. So I'm happy. Hopefully it does inspire somebody and gives them that courage as well.
Well, like when you talk about your childhood experience and your doubts about coming out and all of that, what would you tell somebody who is dealing with those doubts today?
What would I tell somebody with those doubts? I would tell somebody that, first of all, don't doubt yourself, right? Because whatever your difference is in whichever capacity it is, you know yourself better than the next person, right? So when you know something, you know it. don't be so against yourself in that manner, right? Of course, it's hard to say like, don't worry about what other people think. I know that's really hard, especially for maybe people who are still minors and live at home or whatever the situation is. I can understand that it's not always a safe place to necessarily tell people personal information, even at home. But at some point or another, you will come into yourself and you have to live your life. That's what really matters at the end of the day. I'm really grateful and fortunate that I have a really good support system around me now. But if you don't have that kind of support system, I would say definitely one day you will. That would be my best piece of advice is don't beat yourself up because you don't have the right people right now, because those people find their way into your life in one shape or form.
And how can the knitting community in general be more inclusive, more understanding in your view?
Sure. Well, I've had really good positive interactions and communication with a lot of people in the knitting community. I think in general, rather than specifying it just to knitting and crochet, you know, keep that open mind. I mean, we're in 2022 right now, and obviously the world around us is changing. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, you know, it's not going to stop for you and your personal beliefs, right? So really just instead of having that judgmental mind, really just keep your mind open and just be embracing to people. You never know what somebody else in the street is going through, right? And it's so cliche to say it like that, but it really is true. I mean, I live in New York City, right? And of course, we have tons of homelessness and mental health problems that we see people with in the street all the time. But you really have no idea how that person arrived to that situation. And I feel like personally, I'm no one to judge someone else. So I only hope that people kind of share that same respect in that regard as to me and anybody else in their personal struggles and strifes as well.
Thank you so much for jumping onto my channel again. And I hope I'll see you soon at one of the knitting festivals.
You definitely will. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super flattered and honored that you would have me on the channel again. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. You all know my next guest. It's Ross from Twisted Ambitions Yarn, who is a Fiberchats star. And if you haven't seen his interview yet, you should definitely go and check it out. Hi, Ross.
Hey, everyone.
So you collaborated for the Pride Month. You collaborated with Helena Hovis from Chic and Regal Knits on a special project, right?
Yes.
You want to tell us about it?
Yes, it's the Live Out Loud shawl, and it features my yarn. And right now, the listings are up in my shop. We have 6 different colors with corresponding minis, 2 mini skeins and 1 full skein. Makes the shawl. So yeah.
When you were talking to Helena about this shawl, tell me how like her vision translated into your vision. Like, was it easy to collaborate? Was it easy to come up with the yarn ideas?
Yeah, so we had been following each other and kind of just commenting on each other's posts every once in a while. And so she contacted me and she's just like, I have this idea, maybe we can do a shawl collaboration for Pride Month. And I was all about it. So, you know, it was just like very easy going right off the bat. We were like, we want to do this will, you know, the colors will be perfect for this design. So yeah, it was just like a match made in heaven, you know.
How about naming those skeins? Was that difficult?
No, the names actually came very easy. I normally don't name colorways until I have them twisted up. So I twisted them up. As I'm twisting them up, I'm like, oh, these would be perfect Pride name colors. So I just came up with, you know, just right off the bat what I wanted to call them.
So I looked through all of those colors, but that rainbow graffiti was the one where like calling my name.
Yeah, so this is rainbow graffiti.
It's so vibrant.
And so I'm pairing all of these. They all go with 2 different mini skeins. I don't have my sets put together, but I can kind of throw what I have of the mini skeins. So like rainbow graffiti goes with the pink and green, like a lime green.
Right. And it's perfect like summer shawl because it's light, it's like it's fast to make. And
you wear it out, everybody's gonna be staring at you and just like, oh, I want that shawl. And then this one is Electric Pride. And I can't remember, I don't have the kits in front of me what the minis were, but these are all the mini skeins, all the colors for the minis. And so this one's Electric Pride. And then Hot Boy Summer. It's this nice like gray base. Berry Mint. This is a previous color that I've had in my shop.
Totally delicious.
Yeah, this one is just want to eat it. And then we got Island Getaway. And then I'm sorry, this one's Benny and Jets.
I love them. I think you did like amazing job with all of them. They're like so vibrant and so summer-like and like really, I don't know, that shawl just like speaking my name.
I know.
Well, is that the first time you're doing something specifically for the Pride Month?
Well, with somebody else, yeah, as a collaboration. Before I had done kind of a collection for Pride Month last year, but it wasn't with I wasn't a collaboration. So.
And when is this show coming out? It's coming out today, basically. So this episode is gonna air on June 7th, and it's
right. So yes, it's gonna be the pattern is gonna be released on the 7th. The kits are already ready to go in my shop, and they'll be shipped out within 2 weeks.
So we're gonna put all the links to your shop and the kit comes with the pattern, right?
Yes, so there will be a printout of the kit and it will be in with the yarn. You'll also get a downloadable coupon code. So if you want to go on and save it to your phone and through Ravelry. So.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna put all of that information in the description of this video so people can get one of those delicious looking yarn kits and the pattern and give themselves a perfect summer shawl.
Yes, that'd be wonderful. I can't wait to see everybody wearing their shawls.
Yeah, tag Ross when you put the picture.
Yes, please do. Tag us both.
Well, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Irina. Thanks for having me.
My next guest is Duke of Nico. Hi, Duke. If you know Duke by some chance, he was one of my very first guests of Fiberchats, so you can go and watch his full interview back to when I started. But it's so great to have you back. And I know
for having me.
Your very first design was that beer cozy, right?
Right. It's this one. It's called Gay Beer Cozy. And I designed it in 2019. And at that time, I was living in New York City. And 2019 was the 50th anniversary since the Stonewall uprising. Stonewall is a name of a gay bar in New York City where they had a little altercation with the police. So 2019 was a special year. And I was doing a lot of research about that. And I came across a poster of the very first gay or LGBTQ Pride March in 1970. And it had, the poster had words gay, 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 gay. And I thought the poster looked really cool. And I thought about replicating it in my knitting. So I made a few prototypes, just flat knitted gay. But then I thought, maybe I want to make it something more functional. And then I thought maybe it can be cozy because I like drinking beer and I like drinking soda. So I made this into beer cozy. It's gay, gay, gay.
Then since then, you've done a lot of different designs for the LGBTQ community. Can you tell me like more about that? Like what was that idea and why did you decide to make like all-inclusive designs?
So I myself am a gay man. My pronouns are he and him. But I met so many other LGBTQ people who have so many backgrounds. Like it's not just about sexual orientation. It's more about gender and it's the whole thing about your identity and self-expression. And so I started designing, diversify my designs into, well, first of all, I made this the gay cowl, or the G cowl, because I'm gay. I'm attracted to the same-sex, to the person of same sex. And I also made a lesbian cowl, the L cowl, for people who identify as lesbians. And when you say LGBTQ, there's L and LG, and this is B, the bi cowl, for bisexual people. So I started designing designs for, different types of LGBTQ people. And this bi cowl, I started incorporating different color because I like color work. And this color combination is a bisexual pride color, lavender, a pink, lavender, and blue. And I looked into other different color combination. So I created this transgender pride. And this is a headband, but it can also be a cowl or a neck gaiter. So this is a transgender color, and this is gender fluid, gender fluid color combination, and this is a non-binary color combination. And I think each color is so beautiful, and it has each color has meanings behind it. So it's fun to knit, in my opinion, but it's also great for self-expression, or if you can make it as a gift for someone that's near and dear to you, and it will help them express themselves.
Well, let me ask you, like, you're very keen on bringing the knitting community together and making it feel all-inclusive. Like, I know that you do a lot of work in that direction. How can, like, knitting community in general be more supportive and more inclusive?
Just, I think just do your research and be curious about people who are different. Instagram and social media has lots of links where you can educate yourself. Just get to know, people of color or marginalized people, so that you are more aware of, what you say or what you write. And social media, just be more sensitive about it.
Well, I want to thank you for being my guest today again, and I'm hoping to meet you soon again at Rhinebeck, hopefully, or some other festival, because I know you're very actively traveling to all the festivals, and I always love meeting you.
Yeah,
thanks
for thanks for having me. It was great to meet you at Rhinebeck last year. Hope to meet you again this year.
You all know Drew. He is a guest of Fiberchats. If you haven't seen his interview yet, it's Drew B Zeus interview. Like, check it out. Hi, Drew. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me back.
So when we talked during our interview, we talked about all different kinds of crochet toys that you create. But for the Pride Month specifically, you have this whole series of these wonderful, colorful little bees.
Yep, I'm getting them all ready to go. There's some in the back. I've got a whole bunch of different ones. I like to do all of the different pride flags for all the different members of the LGBT community. And yeah, they're just a lot of fun. I just think they're super cute.
Well, I have a technical question. So after our interview, you guys inspired me to make one of those. And it's not as adorable as the ones that you make, because like the way I connected the colors, it's not the same way you nicely connect the colors. What was that process for you like becoming really perfectionist in it?
Sure. Well, there are so many different ways. Most amigurumi is done in a spiral. And so when you join a new color, there's a little bit of a lag because it's, you know, there's no seam to connect it to keep everything lined up. There's tons of different techniques out there on how to eliminate that the color jog. My favorite is by Club Crochet, and it's a colorless jog, and it's also a half color change. So for instance, when I was doing this asexual bee, when I got to where I was switching between yellow and black, this last row of yellow, the first half of the stitch I did in yellow and the second half I did in black. And what that did is that the next row, when I was working all in black, I was going into the head of the stitch of the previous row was black, and it makes these really nice clear divisions between the colors. And it's been a process. They weren't always like this. And it still leaves a little bit of a seam where the colors join, but overall, I'm really, really happy with this technique.
Is the crochet community helpful in like sharing tips like this and teaching you some new tricks and tips?
Oh, absolutely. That's one thing I love about crafters is generally they're very willing to share techniques and new ideas, and it's very community based, which is so wonderful. And I mean, I know I like to share. Part of it is we just like to talk about ourselves. You know, I like to say like, oh, I did this, I tried this, it worked out really well. I tried this, it didn't work out so well. So part of it is I just like talking about myself, but
Do you have a favorite bee among that whole gang of yours?
I do. A friend of mine recently bought a 3D printer, and she 3D printed little versions of my glasses.
That's so cute.
So I have a little rainbow drooby. And it works just like Safety Eyes. It's got a little threaded peg that goes through the stitches and a washer goes on the back. But I'm loving these little.
That's adorable. And it looks exactly like you with the glasses. What can the community in general do to show the LGBTQ makers more support, to make everybody feel like part of the same family?
Sure. I know a lot of allies who also create things with the pride color schemes, and just sort of like, if you know of a queer artist that is making these things, share their work, you know, show people, celebrate how wonderful and like diverse the community is. It's a really fun time of year because you get to sort of celebrate something that, you know, you sort of do little things to celebrate throughout the year, but this is kind of like, it's our time, you know?
How is the reception of those bees? Like, do you ever get negative reception?
I have not gotten a ton of negative reception. I think I sort of put myself forward in such a way that people don't really need to feel the need to criticize. They sort of just like, that's not for me, and they move on. But I do know a lot of creators do get a lot of disrespectful comments, or people telling them it's wrong or sinful. And I mean, on one hand, that's just terrible. On the other hand, all it does is boost the engagement. So if your intention was to, you know, tear us down or make us feel bad, all you've done is make it so that our posts see more people. So thank you.
Well, I also feel like because you are so courageous with your work and you putting yourself out there, it also like opens doors for other people to feel like they can do it, and it gives them the courage to come out or to show their work. And so I feel like it's very important for you.
I hope so. Last year was the first year I did the Pride bees, and I did get a very sweet note from someone who ordered one of the bisexual bees. And she said, I'm not out to anybody. I really just want something to celebrate myself and, coming to terms with my identity. And then later on, she said that she did have the courage to share herself with others and to come out. And I mean, I'm not responsible for that, but I do like to think that it would be something that is helpful. It's just something fun and cute, and it makes you feel good. And all of that is part of the journey of self-acceptance.
Well, it's also like you don't know what you're responsible for, because like when I was talking to Creative Cici, she said that thing that sometimes you don't know how far the wave that you make goes and who it touches and in what ways. So you don't know. Perhaps you were responsible directly or indirectly. You and your little bees.
Well, that would be nice. Anytime I know that I've made someone feel good, that is enough for me. But it would be wonderful if that sort of spread outward and those people went on to affect others. And it's like a ripple effect.
Well, I'm gonna put the links to your store and to your Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff, so people can find you and get the bees in their colors or order some other toy from you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for being my guest again. It was lovely to talk to you. I have Rick here from Whimsy Stitches, and you all know Rick because he was part of the Fiberchats. And if you haven't watched his interview yet, please do so. You'll love it. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Hirana. How are you?
Good to have you back here. So your account, like when I'm looking on Instagram throughout the year, there is always rainbows, there is always like tons of colors, and you do so many different things. You create project bags, you have all the accessories for knitting, you also dye yarn. So tell me, is there something special you do for Pride months?
Pride is something that's near and dear to me as a gay maker. I live my life in the rainbow. Color has always been a part of my life. So color has always surrounded me. I'm attracted to bright colors. So I live the rainbow every day. And, for Pride month especially, but, all year long in my shop, you'll find project bags and yarn that I create specifically that have, a pride, rainbow associated with them in some way. From traditional kind of things, like the traditional gay pride colors, my clear bags, I have small bags, and then I find fabrics as I travel and go to different places, and, I find different things that just inspire me and say, wow, it stops me in my tracks. And I'm like, well, this is great. It's great to find things like this because you don't always find wonderful, representative items.
Right.
And, in these days, you have to be careful who or where you purchase things from, are you being sensitive to some of the issues that might exist or, triggers and different things. So I'm a little careful with, where I purchase things from and who I support out there. Because let's face it, I don't design my own fabrics and print my own fabrics. So all of my fabrics are commercially available in general. And when I happen upon things like this, that just speak to me, this is my newest creation for this year, which is the Love is Love series. And I have medium-sized project bags that are great for doing shawls and, holding those multi-skein kind of projects with a cute little rainbow wrist strap. And then, of course, I've reintroduced my jumbo size. This is my behemoth. I call this my behemoth bag, and it's one of those things that over the shoulder, or crossbody. It's a very popular size. It takes a while to make these, so that's why they don't always appear in the shop. But there are 2 pockets inside, and everybody loves them. So when I do make them, they sell out pretty fast, which is a good problem to have. So, and so what some people don't know about my Pride series is all my Pride series stuff. I monitor the amount of money that is actually brought in from just those sales, and I donate a percentage of that every year to a local charity, usually, sometimes a national charity that is LGBTQ based. So it's important to me that I recontribute back to my community. Not only are your dollars, going directly to my marginalized world, but also to others. So,
and I find it very important, and I find it like very inspiring, because a lot of makers in the LGBTQ community not only building the platform for other makers to come in and feel more comfortable and feel included, but they also like donate some of the proceeds to help others, so it's lovely that you're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could, donate 100% of it, but unfortunately, that's usually not the case. Someone had to buy all this first and then make it. But also, I also, I hold near and dear to me is the traditional gay pride colorway, which is the traditional 6-color rainbow that you always see. That's what speaks to me. That's what's close to me. So that's why I usually have a lot of that in my shop. And sometimes you'll see other things, but for the most part, this is my standard go-to. And I've just dyed up some mini sets because they're very popular. A lot of people love to get the mini sets because you can just add them to anything, any solid color, any variegated, or tonal colorway, and you're off and running. I also created the an inclusive mini set, which is 11 colors. And this is the inclusive pride flag. So that includes, representation of pretty much every sector of the community. But this is what I call the traditional inclusive pride colorway. I also have things, a lot of people don't realize that there are different, there's the lesbian pride, there's bear pride, there's trans pride, there's lots of different, sectors within our community. And one of the popular things that I've been getting messages about that, they're like, some of my lesbian customers like so thankful that I created a lesbian pride flag colorway, and I have minis and 50-gram sets of that, and then as things do sell out, I'll open pre-orders for things because it's something I will carry year round. It's not just for June. And then of course there's the bear pride, which is near and dear to me as well. And this is and some people ask me, like, especially when I do shows and different things and I'm in person and they see that and they're like, well, what is that? and so you have to kind of give them an explanation of that kind of thing. It's no different than different religions. There are different religions out there. Well, I says there are different, followings within the LGBTQ community. So, and each of us look at that and we're kind of represented in different ways. So
it's also nice that you sort of help educating people about that and spread that knowledge, because I feel like the more we know, the more inclusive and the more understanding they are.
It's surprising how much people really don't know, and I understand if you don't live in this life, or it's not a part of your everyday, you're not going to educate yourself. You're not going to seek out that information unless you really want to. So, let's face it. I mean, I've been through a lot in the 52 years that I've been on this earth, and some good, some bad, mostly great, great experiences. And but every day I'm reminded of the struggles that still exist out there, the problems we have in our society, particularly in this country and other countries. And there's a long road ahead of us. I don't want to dwell on that because that's not why I'm here. But it sits on your shoulders all the time. It's a part of your life. It's always there. There's reminders, there's stories, there's different things that come up every day. So
but I feel like it's also very important that we do talk about it, and you keep reminding people?
I try to. I try to be very positive about it, and and speak of my experiences, rather than others, because everybody has their own story, and I'd rather tell my story because I know it well.
Right. Well, I hope more people are gonna find you after this episode and help you celebrate Rainbow all year long.
Thank you. I hope so.
I love all your little accessories and all your stitch markers that you do.
My pins, pride pins, and rainbow markers, and different things that I find throughout the year. And then for Pride Month this year, every order of yarn or bag is getting one of these little Pride bead bracelets, and I'm wearing one now. And it's just a small little reminder to put on your wrist if you want to wear it during June, or you want to wear it year round. And it's just something I wanted to include during the month of Pride for my customers that place orders with me.
Well, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. I love seeing you again.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
I have Seth Richardson here, and Seth is a designer, and this year he did something very special for Pride. Hi, Seth. Welcome to Fiberchats.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. So tell me, I saw on Instagram this post that you did about dressing up your tree in your front yard. Tell me how that idea came to mind.
Sure. Well, so my husband and I, we're in Portland, Oregon, and we moved here about 5 years ago from New York City. So we've always lived in, our whole adult lives, we've always lived in some kind of urban area, a place where lots of other people like us, same-sex couples are there, feeling very comfortable, very welcome being where we are. When we moved to Portland, we also lived in the city, not in downtown, but in an area that had a lot of walkable, streets and streets with shops and cafes and things like that, and a very diverse community that we lived among. And then a year ago, we moved just outside of the city to the suburbs. And so we're in this different environment. We've never lived in the suburbs in our adult lives. And I didn't anticipate this feeling until we moved here. I suddenly felt different. I realized that we were not living in the same kind of diverse community that we've been used to living in. And I was very worried about being the new gay couple on the block. I was worried about our safety. I didn't know who our neighbors were. And I started to notice as we were exploring the area that there were a lot of signs and political signage and flags that other people were flying that suggested that people like us might not be very welcome in the area. And so I was really nervous about it. And every time we met someone new on the street, it was I was very scared to say, I just moved in down the street with my husband, because I didn't know if it was a safe space. I didn't know if they were going to be okay with it. So June comes around last year, shortly after we moved into our new house. And while I'm feeling so nervous about everything, suddenly I notice a house around the corner from us put up a rainbow pride flag. And I just suddenly felt this sense of relief that there was somebody else in our neighborhood, somebody close by who was an ally. And that was a moment when I realized that visibility is so important. I made that commitment then that this year for Pride, we would do something with our house. I thought about putting up a flag or some kind of signage. But then last summer, I was actually watching the Cabin Boy Knits podcast, and they had an episode with Kirk Dunn on, and they were talking about this Pride yarn bomb for trees project that he was working on. And I just knew right then that was going to be what I did for Pride this year. So I reached out to folks on Instagram a couple of months ago and just said, hey, I'm going to do this project. Do you have any tips? And the community gave me everything that I needed. They told me, work with acrylic yarn, work with big needles. Don't stress too much about it. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And use a little bit of negative ease to make sure you've got a snug fit. And I just took some measurements and went for it. So there we go. June 1st of this year, it just seamed it up the side of the tree, and voila, we have a pride symbol in front of our house.
Well, was it like an interesting experience to do measurements of your tree?
Yeah, it's weird. As a designer, I'm used to things like not having, I guess, having weird shapes, and our tree is not a totally straight tree. It's got some knobby sides to it, and it definitely decreases. So I had to kind of figure out as I went along, like, where my decreases were going to be. They didn't have to be perfect, because fortunately the tree's not going to care too much about whether it fits right or not. It's not going to complain. Well, the hard thing is that I've got, if you look at the picture on Instagram, I'm Seth Richardson Knits on Instagram. But if you look at the picture on Instagram, you'll see there's like a branch that comes out, and the branch that comes out, I've used the trans colors in there to represent that. But I needed to figure out how to create this like sleeve, which I did flat. And then there's like kind of this funny cutout that I then had to pick up some stitches to get this branch to fit in. It was a little bit of probably some trickier shaping and engineering than I'm used to, but it was a lot of fun. It was a great challenge. And no, it's not perfect, but it worked out pretty well.
Well, I mean, when you were like trying that creation on the tree, was it like immediate success, or did you have to go back and tinker down a little bit?
It actually, most of it was pretty straightforward, because what I did was I was able to figure out, like, okay, I want my stripes to be about 6 inches tall. So, figuring out, from my gauge swatch, what, how many rows and how many stitches I would need to get me to that was pretty easy to get up until I got around the orange. So I started with purple and worked up to orange. And then orange is where I had to start dividing. And then that's when I had to, I'd go out to the tree and I'd put it up there, kind of like just sort of put it on with some binder clips just to see how it fit. And then I'd had to go back and kind of redo that section a couple of times. But fortunately, like, when you're working with such big needles and doubled yarn, the work goes really quickly. So it wasn't like, oh, I got to go back 6 rows. It was like, all right, I can do this in about 20 minutes. This isn't such a problem.
You think you're going to write the pattern for it?
Oh gosh, I think that's a little tricky, because every tree is totally different, right? But maybe there's a way I could write some kind of tutorial and put it on my website or something that kind of gives somebody some tips about how they can do a similar project.
I think you should. I think that would be great, because like that would show, like, give you tips and tricks to other people to try to do it in their backyard. Because I was talking about you with Josh Stein, who I also interviewed for this segment. And I told him that you did this tree, and he's like, oh my God, I'm dying to decorate the tree in my yard because I have this beautiful tree. So I'm sure there are going to be customers out there looking for ideas.
Well, one of the things that was so surprising to me, I guess I didn't realize this, a lot of the comments that I received on Instagram and also personally were from allies, people that don't identify as gay or anything on the LGBTQ spectrum. And a lot of the allies are saying, you've made me realize that visibility from allies is also really important. The reason why I did this project was so that other people could feel safe in our space and could have permission to come out, whatever that might be, especially if they're feeling some kind of pressure to conform under whatever their family or whatever community they come from that says that they can't be this. That's incredibly oppressive. But when other people represent or show you that it's okay to be who you are, that can mean the world to somebody. And I think it was a big surprise for me to realize that a lot of allies were taking from this, like, oh, I need to show up and be visible too. So that was a really good lesson for me, and also very heartening. I'm very happy to see that people are taking that away. So yeah, hopefully there are some people out there that will love doing some project like this for the same reasons.
No, and I think it's important in your story that just because you're comfortable in one place doesn't mean that every other place is safe for you. And you sort of need to work through that again and again throughout your life. And that's why it's so important to be public about it and to sort of reconfirm the same thing again. And that helps other people to feel also safe, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're just a big community out here, right? Like, let's all love each other and help each other be who you are and be accepted for who you are.
Right. No, I think it's like your post was very important because it brings together the entire knitting community and shows them how they can support the LGBTQ makers, you know.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. And I will also say, I'd also want to say that since I've noticed that first flag that I saw in our neighborhood, I have seen plenty of other folks in our neighborhood who are showing support, whether they are expressing their own identity as LGBTQ folks or whether they are just showing their support for the community. I've seen lots of other people in our neighborhood. And in fact, shortly after we stopped chatting today, there's a little Pride celebration in my area in a little park that we're going to go to. So there's definitely support out there, in the community, but also like you said, it's been really fun to see the support in the knitting community as well.
Well, I'm glad that your story ended well, and I want to thank you for sharing your story with the whole knitting community, because I think you're doing a very important job by sharing it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me on. I'm glad to have a chance to talk about it.
My pleasure. And you have to come back for a full-size interview. We have to talk about all other designs of yours.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.